while hanging
Wow,
300
because you're still moving. No, thank you. The old poison garden, a job that'll shock you, and who here is afraid of heights? Today we are breaking down and reacting to some of the insane possible injuries and hazards from the most dangerous jobs out there. All right, let's dive right in.
The sky. Smoke jumpers parachute directly into forest fires in order to keep them from spreading. Of course, one change in the wind as they're falling, and they can end up right in the middle of a blazing inferno.
Jumping out of an airplane increases the risk of injuries from that. Parachute doesn't open, you're landing in the trees, fractures, dislocations, ligamentous injuries. Then you're dealing with fire all the time, okay? You're having increased exposure to smoke, as well as the environmental things that combust and burn, as well as different types of burns that could occur.
If you've ever driven along a mountain road, you're aware of how absolutely nerve-wracking they are. Sharp, winding turns, narrow lanes. But there are people who brave these roads on a daily basis, and in some of the hardest to maneuver vehicles imaginable.
Individuals that are driving these really have good depth perception. They're able to kind of understand where tires are, where the nose of the vehicle is, where the back of the vehicle is. You actually have people or vehicles that go off these cliffs. Things that we see when they're not seatbelted, the windows break and they actually get thrown from the vehicle and they get tossed pretty far, and so just that injury in itself could be quite detrimental. Fractures, broken bones, amputated limbs, even death. The car rolling on top of an individual, they might not make it to the hospital because they are dead on scene. You know, there's the other component of being stuck out in the mountains for a long period of time.
Cliff diving is an extreme sport that's gained massive popularity the world over in recent years. Put the two together and you'll find the relatively fledgling world of professional cliff diving. Most dives are from 50 to 80 feet in the air, with the highest being about 100 feet above the water.
Wow, that's crazy. Okay, really need to know what's below the surface of the water, because are there rocks there? Is it shallow? What type of jagged rocks might be sticking out that can hit you? Yes, the water gives a little bit more, but it's still a relatively dense surface when you're going that fast from such a great height. There are instances where you can actually fracture bones. You can fracture your calcaneus, which is your heel bone, and then you can fracture things going all the way up.
Repelling window washers have one of the most dangerous jobs in the world, starting at the tips of skyscrapers.
I'm like nauseous just looking at this, imagining that I'm on the outside of a building cleaning a window that high up.
Sometimes thousands of feet in the air, they have to jump over the edge backwards with nothing but a rope harness securing them to the top.
You have to think about your tools. You can't drop those things. If you drop them, you increase the risk of literally killing somebody that's down below because of how high you're up and, you know, all the different forces that go into account. If you fall from a big skyscraper high up, you're not going to survive. But if you fall from, you know, a couple stories up, depending on what you fall on, there is a chance of survival.
Everest, the tallest mountain in the world. Every year, more and more tourists come in by the thousands to get a shot at taking the most extreme selfie they're ever going to get.
Just going up in elevation, you have to worry about, you know, pulmonary edema, cerebral edema if you're ascending too fast, outside of falling through a crevice to your demise and never being found again, which I'm assuming does happen often enough. What else do you have to worry about? The elements, right? You have to worry about the cold, frostbite, losing limbs, and having things getting cut off because there's no more circulation due to being frozen.
Linemen are actually some of the most important people in your day-to-day life. These brave men and women work to make sure that electricity continues flowing all over the grid.
First of all, not even dealing with the electricity. You're worried about falling, so that's a risk for this job. The obvious is the electrocution.
And are first on the scene when service is somehow interrupted, like when a tree falls on a power line.
So super dangerous if like wires are just like cut, laying around, don't touch them. What I deal with in the emergency department are typically people who get electrocuted via outlets at the house. We'll do blood work. We'll check to make sure that there's nothing going on with the heart in the sense of dangerous, no arrhythmias. We'll check troponin, which is basically to tell us if there's been any injury in the heart. And we'll also check a blood test called the CPK, which helps us to see if there's been muscle breakdown. And obviously if there are some burns to the tissue, we'll take a look and treat those as well.
What would you think of a job where you only had to change a light bulb once every 6 months? You probably wouldn't imagine it being a well-paid job. Well, think again, because that's where the brave electrical alphinists come into play.
No, thank you. You're gonna be wind up there. You're gonna have your own vertiginous feelings, and then obviously you still got the function to move stuff.
In order to make sure the bulbs at top radio towers never go out, these fearless engineers climb to the top every 6 months and replace the bulb. Working one day every 6 months might not seem like too bad of a gig until you realize that the tallest radio towers can be well over 2,000 feet tall.
So when you're up this high, you can potentially have high winds, so that can even just potentially knock you off. But that's why they always have two basically ropes attached to their harness. It probably takes a long time to even get up that high as well. So you have to worry about muscle fatigue, muscle shaking, and making sure that you stay in good top physical shape so you can actually do these climbs.
Lifeguards have an incredibly serious job. Lifeguards have to be ready to respond at a moment's notice if someone's drowning, stung by a jellyfish, or even attacked by a shark.
Big things we worry about are related to people drowning, near drownings, and then getting bit by any of the sea creatures, as well as like common things that come to the emergency department are jellyfish stings or stingray stings, and then obviously the classic like just lacerations from different types of soil, rock.
On some especially dangerous beaches, like the famous surfing spot, the 7 Mile Stretch, lifeguards have to save as many as 20 people a day. Thankfully, through intensive training, good conditioning, and some serious courage, lifeguards are able to save tens of thousands of people every year.
Really be careful. You got to know your limits when you're actually going out there. Know what your swimming skills are. Know if there's any riptides, right? Say you're not as good of a swimmer. You want to swim where you can see a lifeguard station just in case something were to happen. Lifeguards are trained not only in being able to be good swimmers and get people out of these situations, but they also are trained as first responders and know first aid. So definitely seek them out if you need help.
Those giant wind turbines can get damaged, and since they need to be repaired quickly, wind turbine mechanics are on the job.
Whoa, I didn't realize how huge these things were.
These slightly insane, but definitely very brave men and women actually have to climb up these 350-foot high turbines.
I mean, they're using cable lines, so they're probably pretty solid, and they're using harness. Yeah, harness is a good apparatus to use, sure.
Nothing more than the kind of rope harnesses rock climbers use. Then, while they're still moving, they have to latch on to the ropes themselves, and then manually fix any holes with sand.
That looks like a tough job.
All the while hanging 350
Wow, because you're still moving. No, thank you. Same thing. Don't drop your tools because the people below you will get injured or the tool will just disintegrate as it falls to the ground. Those wires probably can take off limbs and kill people just as the tension gets taut on them. They almost look like metal wires versus like nylon rope. Are these blades sharp? I wonder. I bet they can get pretty quick and you don't want to get in the way of it.
Well, being a gardener might actually look like one of the safest jobs around. Some of the most beautiful plants can be some of the most deadly. And at the Poison Garden in England, you'll find some of the most beautiful and the most deadly plants in the world. And where there's a garden, there needs to be a gardener. Started by the Duchess of Northumberland as a morbidly fascinating tourist attraction, every plant in the garden is poisonous, with some being able to kill you with just a few drops of their juice, or burn your skin for up to 7 years.
What? Okay, that is crazy. There's a mushroom called Amanita phalloides, and this is a mushroom that could kill you if you ingested it. Some other plants out there, if you just touch it, they secrete different things that could cause issues, could cause burns, can be absorbed into your tissues. You have to be obviously careful with a lot of like ingestions of plants because then they can become quite toxic. If you do any of these jobs, thank you so much for doing them, and please be safe. As always, this was really entertaining. If you enjoyed this, check out this playlist right here, and make sure you subscribe, turn your bell notifications on, and hit that like button for me. Thank you so much for watching, and stay healthy, my friends.